Good, and really happy to be here again with you 1 week again. So we are pretty excited
Alright.
because we have a great guest today. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, we started international, but of course, you're here to actually hear about our guests. So please introduce each other, and then we started.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Carmen Junquera, also known as Caroline. I'm a host and cast in esports. And well, I have to say, I found my first job in esports thanks to the platform this man is working on.
So now we are guessing how our guest is going to be. But
Yeah.
I'm Yasmina, an intellectual property lawyer, and now we're going to have a huge welcome to Nathan. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi guys, yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you. I can't believe you got your first job in esports due to Hitmarker. So I love hearing them stories. So that's
Yeah,
really nice.
right? It was through, I found the ad for the Newell
Oh,
University
got you.
Leagues. And I was like, this one. I applied for it thanks to you guys, and I got it. So
There we go.
it's
We'll
amazing,
take
2
that.
years ago.
Yeah, that's really cool. We'll take that as a testimonial. Boom.
Okay, I'm glad about it. So, Jasmina, we've got so many questions prepared for our guest today.
I know there are
Do you
so
want
many
to start?
questions. Okay, I will start. But first of all, for those who doesn't know, Nathan is actually the head of community and marketing in Hitmarker. So you have a huge profile, I think, before you work there. So it has been really, really nice to have you here. But first of all, I would like if you can explain a little bit in a nutshell, who are you? How is your professional career going on? I know it's a lot actually from the start.
Yeah, I'll try. I tried to keep it really short. So I got, I guess, interested in gaming and esports through back when I was 15. Like properly, like tried to play competitively, didn't play too well. Like a lot of people, I think that they kind of enter in the space by playing games. I was interested by that route. I started my own esports organization that was just really like a clan with friends. Then turned into something a bit proper, and really from that point onwards, got me my first entry level position in kind of a paid gig at esports, which I mean, anybody gets their first paid role in esports, it feels really, really nice finally. And then I find once you're in the industry, I kind of just navigated myself through a kind of numerous different freelance positions. And then now, boom, yeah, a big step up at Hitmarker from my previous role. But I'm sure we'll talk about more like why Hitmarker and what was really interesting from that kind of approach. But there's like a 30-second rundown version of the story that I could absolutely speak about for weeks, I think.
Elevator pitch, right? Like just a short 30 seconds to get a good insight of how it looked like. But we also want to know, because obviously before this, as you said, before Hitmarker arrived, you were working for Excel, Infinity. So I also want to know a little bit about those, and for you to describe what your role was at those organizations.
Yeah, Gfinity and Excel. So Excel was slightly different. Ended up leading like the social media efforts there. But Gfinity, I was just not a small part, but I was running the main Gfinity socials. I think the things that I learned from the roles, like very quickly, is that social media can be quite. Look, I mean, all of us use social media, and it's a useful tool. Don't get me wrong; it's very, very useful in our industry, but it's also quite detrimental to, I think, our health to some degree. And I found specifically at Excel that there wasn't a switch off point. It was just me for 18 months, having to cover all the NEC games, all the NLC games. I mean, all the Valorant games, the Fortnite games. It got a bit too much, and it takes a toll after a time, I think. It's not fun. So look, I think the biggest thing I learned with those two roles was to really respect yourself a little bit more and actually properly set time aside to make sure you enjoy. Like, work gets too much when you can't enjoy other things outside of work. Simple as that. And if I'm doing work from the minute I wake up, hopping on my computer until the minute I'm going to sleep, that's not healthy at all. So I think I found kind of, or tried to find, and now I found it in some degree with Hitmarker, is like a really healthy balance of work and life. Because look, I love what I do, and that's helpful, of course. Like if you're passionate about what you do, it's really helpful. But back in those days, I mean, not even a year ago, I was stuck in this whole grind mindset. You have to work every single hour of the day to get to where you want, and it's not like that at all. So for this year, I've really focused on being a little bit more healthy, like step back at certain times and make sure I do go for a walk with my dog, or make sure I do properly chill out and take proper time off, right? Because I think that's important. So I think that's the biggest thing I learned from those two roles was, look, like set limits and set boundaries and stick to them. Like you have to respect yourself at the end of the day, because it can get too much, and it does get too much, and it will hit you all at once. And at that point, when it does hit, it sucks. Like it's not fun.
That's important to know, and especially nowadays with all the media and all the information that we do. But also, you talk about your dog. I hope the audience see your dog that is behind you. That is so beautiful.
I'm having a nap at the moment, of course.
Of course, they have to do it. But
Yeah.
I wanted to know, Nathan, why you choose this path of esport, and why do you feel so engaged with this sector? What makes you passionate about it? It was because you play already, or just because it happens?
Good, yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I just love it. I've always loved it. Growing up in school, I was that like, look, all my mates played like games, and that was fine, and I played with them. But I was the only one that really pursued it from an esports point of view. And if anything, I was looked at that like one weird kid that's just into like something everybody else isn't, right? And I followed it from an early career, like trying to create content when I was like 14 and 15, like uploading videos to YouTube. I think everyone does it. And I remember I remember a key memory. Someone like getting a video up in my biology lesson and like showing the class, and I was so embarrassed, and it was just awful. But I've always just loved it, to be honest. I've always just been super interested in the space. Why I do it now and why I'm passionate about it is that I want to drive change and improvement for the space, I think, and there's no better company than Hitmarker to do that. So I think I strive to make, like, esports, like any industry in the world, is far from complete, and we have our areas that we need to improve on, and I'd like to be a part of improving that, if anything, and whether that's from, I mean, making it a more inclusive space, or making sure that everybody at every single level kind of understands that, look, gaming is a viable career option, and it's not this, you just have to be a professional player or you just have to be a content creator. There's multiple like different avenues to go down, and really just kind of educating the public on this area, I think is really interesting to me, but also helping the people that are already kind of native to the space and want to advance further. I just like, it's a strange one because I just always liked helping people in a weird way, but it makes me feel like I'm offering some kind of value and purpose, I think, and I really enjoy it. So yeah, like why not do it for the space that I grew up in and I've been passionate about all my life. So yeah, I feel like I owe something to the space, I think.
It's quite interesting that you say it in a way that to help people, because I really like it. At the end, it shows the kind of person that you are, and if there are other options here in the esports sector, there, as you say, it's not only to be a game. And here we have a plenty of experience because we have Carmen that is a caster, and you, for the other hand, that actually know media, marketing, and so on. And we will go into it, but. Okay, of course, Carmen, go to the next question.
Yeah, because I was really curious about, like, okay, you've been social media, as Yasmina said, now you're working for Hitmarker, but a while ago, you were also working as a team manager, let's say, as a founder, in fact, for Radiant Esports. So how come you decided to pursue that path, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, Radiant was my baby. I'll be real. Look, I started it when I was 15, and I ended it when I was 19, in October 2019, just because one, I wanted to pursue my proper full-time esports career. I had the opportunity back then with Gfinity, so I wanted to pursue that. It made sense to, but I started it out of just pure, look, I wanted to own a team. I wanted to run something with my friends, and for the first 2 years, it was nothing serious. I'll be real. It was just, you could call it just a clan with friends, if anything. Like, we just played competitively Call of Duty, and that was it. And then it came to 2017 where we actually started. I wouldn't say we got funding, but we kind of got like a small sponsorship that we kind of pursued in the game. Sending a Halo team to HCS Denver, which was a really cool event at the time. We placed top 16 with like Optic, Excel, like Envy, like all the big boys in the space, which felt really, really good. And I mean, we beat Excel, which I went on to obviously work for Excel, so that was a funny story to tell. But yeah, I think that was like maybe a key moment. And then we did in 2018 a 13-day live charity live stream, which was really cool at like a local area for us. We tried to beat the world record there. Like, went to Las Vegas, we went to Malta, we went to all these different locations. That was really, really cool, right? So yeah, like, it turned into something proper, and I think having that on my CV, I guess, was enough to, well, more than enough to get me my first role, because it was not only, I found out that I was interested in marketing and social media. I always used to coin the phrase of like, make a penny look like a pound. We didn't have the most winning teams, we didn't have the best players, we didn't have the biggest content creators, but our social media coverage was like much better than all the other amateur esports organizations, and that's what gathered people and garnered people interest in us, really, because we were interesting. We weren't the same old esports org that was boring and just doing normal tweets. Like, we had banter, we had fun, and we went out and kind of drove conversations. So I think that's where I found my spark for social media, like my interest in it. But yeah, like I love Radiant. I love talking about Radiant, and I could talk about it for another 2 hours easily, because there's so much. Like, I mean, half my, I guess, adult life was dedicated to this project that I started when I was super young, and it was fun. Like, I get the question all the time too, like, would I bring it back if the investment was right? And like, will that happen? Like, no. I think it's good to leave it as it was, as a memory, because memories are always better when you look back at them, right? But yeah, I think that's like, it started just because a group of friends and wanted to have fun with something, and it ended with, I mean, a project that was somewhat successful, but not only launched me and launched a couple others into like a proper career. So that's what I'm eternally grateful for.
No, but it's great. Actually, we get, like, when we were doing your profile, and then we see it, it was like, oh, that's interesting that you own your own team. And we wanted to bring it here. And of course, as you say you have an anecdote. So I will going to start. Please tell me the anecdote, because I cannot wait. So tell me, how was it with Excel, because I wanted to know. And before we go to the other questions, but please tell me this anecdote.
Yeah, I mean, like, we played, so the match versus Excel versus Radiant, I think, like, they smashed us in the first. We put like all the pennies that we had in our pocket to this team, and we sent them to the event. We couldn't organize. Jerseys were supposed to arrive, but they didn't, and it was just a nightmare. And it was a best of 3, so they smashed us in the first map. It wasn't too fun at all, and then somehow we just smashed them in the second 2 maps. And look, I was friends with the brothers at Excel at the time, so it was a funny kind of interaction. But when I joined Excel, it was just funny to look back on that. I could say, I beat your team, by the way, but before we even like met. It's fun. It's a good little story.
I hope they are not bad at it.
Yeah, no, of course they're not.
If they're listening, they love you. Everything's fine.
They did it. Kieran and Joel are lovely people. Yeah, they're okay.
So now moving on to your current position, because now, as we've been hinting very subtly during this entire interview, is that you currently work for Hitmarker. So we want to know, how did you end up there? Because again, social media manager, team owner, and now media marketing manager. How does that work? How did you end up in there?
Yeah, so it's like, I guess at Excel, it got to a point where I wasn't too happy with myself or where the business was going, all them good things. So I handed my notice in. It was a 3-month notice period, and I wanted to make adamant that I wanted to get a tweet out there to make sure, like, it was public, that, okay, I've got 3 months to kind of seek another opportunity. I wanted to do that because I wanted to garner interest and what companies were interested in me. And one of those was Hitmarker. Like, I've known Hitmarker now. I mean, I've known the owners of Hitmarker since they started. We've worked together on tiny little projects here and there, and I've helped them with certain pieces of content, all that good stuff. So, like, it made sense for them to reach out. I'll be real, we had the conversation, and after the conversation we had, I mean, it was 30 minutes. It was the most interesting offer I had at the table. It wasn't the most paid, it wasn't the highest position, it wasn't anything like that, but it was the most interesting, because I always said to myself, look, I lacked purpose at Excel. I didn't feel like what I was doing was leading to anything really progressive and really good. And at Hitmarker, I knew, I mean, one, they're the center of the industry when it comes to, obviously, not only a jobs platform, but they offer all sorts of advice, and the platform where people go to if they're lost, where to go in the industry. So I really wanted to have an impact somewhere that affected the entire industry. And unfortunately, no other offer came even close to having an impact on the entire industry. So that's where it was really interesting. And I mean, yeah, like, I weighed up the other options. I wasn't stupid. I made sure to speak to other companies. I weighed up everything. But after the conversation, it was stuck in my head. Like, it was that gut feeling. I don't know if you guys get it, but I think always trust your gut feeling. And as soon as after that call ended, my gut was telling me, you have to go Hitmarker. It's the right position for you. It's going to fulfill you. There's actually purpose behind the things that you do. Like, it's going to be really good for you. And then boom, I signed the contract. I want to say like early November, I think. So it was like 2 weeks after that I'd posted my kind of looking for an opportunity post. But yeah, there was not much competition, I'll be real, regardless what the pay was, regardless what that was, because I think after my stint at Excel, it was very important, or it proved to me that, look, there's more things than all that good stuff. Like you have to have purpose in the job, because I mean it takes up most of your time at the end of the day. Like if you're not enjoying it and if it's not giving you meaning, then it sucks, if anything. So so I'm glad I kind of stuck to my morals and threw the other kind of attractive factors inside and went with my gut at the end of the day. So yeah.
I really like that you do it, because now you can explain everything here in Esports Business Life, and we are really humbled to have you here. We're really happy.
Thank you.
But of course, I like that you say, like, for example, trust your gut. And I always say, I have a friend of mine who always tell me, if it's, I'm not 100% sure about something, I'm not going to do it. Even if I have like a small percentage of it. But I think when you have your full gut of something and you are 100% sure, then it's the right choice for you.
100%.
And but I would like to, for example, I don't know if some of the audience, maybe the majority of them, of course, they know Hitmarkers, but for those who doesn't know it, if you can be in a nutshell to explain all the things they actually do, because I think there are plenty of things that they do, but in a nutshell.
Yeah, in a nutshell, we are the home of gaming jobs, basically. We are the like job board that has all the different jobs in gaming and esports available. We moved away this year from the gaming and esports job platform, just because, I mean, esports is a subcategory of gaming anyways. And realistically, as much as I love esports, and I truly do, esports is this, right? Gaming is, I mean, my entire room. Esports is a tiny part of the gaming world. So we wanted to focus on something like bigger than just esports. But yeah, like other than that, we also offer tons. I mean, there's like 20 articles on the website that dive into all different advice series, tons of content that we do with all wider different companies that kind of explain to that area too. Yeah, I mean, like we are, I guess people come to us with kind of their issues and their questions and like how can we improve here and there, and we help those people. So it just feels really fulfilling, to be honest, because we're helping as many people as we can, and there's no real benefit to us at the end of the day for it, but it feels really, really nice. But we're also progressing to kind of like at a good stage of, okay, what do we want to stand for and what does that look like? I mean, there's tons of things coming in 2022 that make our platform better than most, and it's been requested for time and time now. So yeah, once we implement these things, I think it'll be an all-encompassing place. Not only you can find a job, but you can find all types of information on the industry and kind of do your own research to make people, well, our aim is, I guess, make people critical thinkers, because I think this day and age we lack a lot of that. People can actually think for themselves, make their own decisions, rather than us being like the law and order of the entire industry, which I don't think we would fit as too much.
And actually, so go ahead.
No,
Carmen.
I was talking about how easy it was, because honestly, you just had to log in the website, or not even log in, but I mean, that's what I ended up doing. And then I just had to type in caster, I think it was what I typed in. Then I selected region and all these things popped up. And I was able to choose, like, usually it doesn't work like that. You know, it's much more difficult. You have to be very specific what you're looking for. But in this case, I think Hitmarker was hitting the mark, indeed, with what it was proposing. So I think it's quite easy to navigate. So if someone in chat is thinking, shall I try this or not, definitely do try it, because, again, it's really intuitive.
Yeah, shout out to the dev team that made the website. It's super basic, super simple, and it's so streamlined that it's nice.
I hope they heard this, because I was saying that actually we have someone who has the experience before and she's happy with it. So I think, and I love your joke here. I really love it. It was really nice.
It's the name of the business, so I just, anyways. Well, I want to know what you do there, Nathan. I want to know what to do your current position as community and marketing, because community seems to be like a really new concept in a way. Perhaps we've seen it worded with all the names, but not like this. So could you explain what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, there's a funny backstory about the role name too, I guess, to some degree, because when I joined, it was my first day. I was on a call with the managing director, Rich, and he was like, look, we're changing your job title, because it was originally just head of marketing. He was like, we're going to add head of community marketing to it. I was like, oh, okay, sure, sounds good, I guess. Like, what would that mean? And we kind of agreed on the day that's what the role would be. So yeah, I mean, without boring every single detail, I head up all the entire marketing efforts and the community efforts at Hitmarker. So that encompasses, I mean, don't need to kind of delve into all the different marketing kind of avenues that are available, but obviously social media is a big part with kind of my background is something that I'm quite passionate in, but also all the different avenues too, and then the community, mainly being our Discord at the moment, kind of really nurturing that and what we can bring to that. I think something that we did quite that was a huge success last year that obviously I wasn't a part of, that I want to build out this year and kind of improve, was these networking sessions, which we did. I think we did like I'm not too sure how many we did last year, but like hundreds of people turned up and networked and had conversations and listened to a panel. So the more kind of opportunities we can offer to the community and make it home in our Discord and kind of offer it there and then, I think is super important. But yeah, like to without boring all the details, just lead up all our marketing and community efforts basically.
Actually, I was supposed to be the host for one of those sessions, but I got sick. Yes,
Oh no.
Yeah, I know, right? And I missed the opportunity. I think that session included Yamada and a few other like amazing people. I was like, oh, damn it. But anyways, I'm gonna hand it over to Yasmina, because if I think about it, I'll be sad. And
No, please, because actually the next question I was going to say that I'm a negative person, so he's connected it somehow. But because I wanted to say, like, in this case, thank you so much, Adrian, for showing up and saying hello to our guest. That's good. That's good. But what I wanted to say in this case is, like, of course, as any role that we have here in eSport or in each job, at the end we have drawbacks and we have positive side. And I wanted to know, in your place, especially in your position, what are the negative aspects that you find out? And all, of course, at the end, we have to think positive because it's Monday and we have the rest of the week. So we need something positive in our life, right, guys?
We do.
Please.
Yeah, we really do. I think, like, if I had to really nitpick a negative, I think any time you deal with the community, and this is also the positive too, because I love engaging with the community. I think they're great. I think it's the best part of any company that I work with. I love them to bits. But the negative is that all criticism, you are the front-facing person to that. Regardless what happens internally at the company, you are the front-facing person that has to deal with kind of the fires. And I haven't experienced it at Hitmarker maybe anywhere near enough that I experienced it at Excel. But obviously, if something bad happens to the brand or the brand does something bad, it's the social media and the community manager that gets the slack, unfortunately, right? And I know the people targeting it are not, targeting at me or targeting at the people behind the scenes, and they're targeting at the people that have made the decision, right? But it sucks to see those things. And look, after a while, I say you kind of get used to it to some degree, but it still hurts. I think with this type of role, you just have to be, or you are always on the front page of being criticized, and that's fine to some level, because you should be held accountable. But at some other levels, it just becomes really terrifying, because I mean, if you're a community manager for thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, they're looking at you. Do you know what I mean? They're not looking at the CEO. They don't care what the CEO does. They're looking at you, and you have to inform them all the information, and that's your job at the end of the day, right? But there seems like to be a lot of pressure of it. And not saying all community manager roles are like that. Some community manager roles are much more behind the scenes and less kind of as a public facing figure. But I found at Excel and kind of Hitmarker, especially now, I can't avoid it as my head of role. But everyone's eyes are on you, and sometimes that pressure can really hit hard. But I find that as long as you switch off and kind of surround yourself with really good people, then I think you'll always be in somewhat of a good mindset. Because look, people, I find that I don't live by the quote that everybody has a valuable opinion. I find that, look, some people have some really valuable things to say and other people don't. There's some people on Twitter and Reddit that will just tweet you and tweet some absolute, I was about to swear then, but will tweet some really worthless things to you. And if you take that on board, it's worthless. I'll be absolutely real. You can't, and what I've learned, especially this year, is that you don't owe anybody out there a response. You don't owe them absolutely anything. Like, people respond to you on Twitter to sometimes get a reaction. They want something from you. Like, if you respond to them, then you're giving them that. And you feel like, I used to think back like a year ago, someone tweeted me on social media and questioned my opinion or questioned my thought process, I had to respond. It was to defend myself or my dignity. I don't. And once you kind of take that approach, it's so freeing, and it makes me smile thinking about it, because it's such a relaxing way to kind of live life once you kind of detach from that, because it's super important. Because look, not everybody on social media says nice things, and most people don't,
No.
to be honest. And regardless how big you are, or regardless how much you grow, there will always be a percentage of people that just dislike you for no apparent reason, and that's fine. That's okay. You don't need to please everyone. And if they're going to tweet you nasty things, there's a block and a mute button there for a reason, and that's fine. And it's so freeing to tell yourself and remind yourself that, as kind of like, look, I don't owe these people anything. I can just block them and move on with my day, and that's lovely. Went on a bit of tangent there. In terms of a positive, I mean, I kind of mentioned at the start, engaging with the community is the best part of most of my jobs, especially at Excel. Engaging with the people that really care about the brand, and actually have, like, I mean, it's it's a person behind the screen that you have to remind yourself that these people actually exist, and they're really cool people, and they're really nice people, and they do all these things to support the brand and support me. It's really nice and humbling. So that's my favorite part of it, I think.
Oh, really? But I really love your method and your way that you see social media, because it's quite important. And nowadays, I feel like this. I love that you say that not every opinion is valid, because I think the same. Sometimes there are people who just want to argument and to say things that are nasty things. And I remember the first time that I have Twitter, I just mentioned that I was amazed with I was with WandaVision. I just mentioned it was like, oh my god, the show is amazing, I love it. And someone randomly say something negative about me, and it was like, and I remember that I said to my friends, hey, I have my first hater. I'm so happy because I'm famous about this. But it's the way at the end you feel about it. It's true that sometimes it could be really difficult, as Carmen can tell, because of course she, as a caster, she is a lot of pressure, and of course you, Nathan. No, because I know that you at the end you work with the audience, with engagement. So at the end you are in contact directly with them. So it's quite refreshing to see this. And Nathan, I hope more people think like you. I hope so. Please
so
hashtag be like Nathan. Please.
Honestly, it's just nice. Yeah, like don't force yourself to think of these things, that these people behind the screen, some really matter, some really wonderful, lovely people, and you'll meet some of the greatest people on here, but some don't, and that's okay too. That's okay too. And once you realize that, that's okay. They don't matter. Bye. They need to go. Do you know what I mean? That's simple as that.
But please don't tweet us about the overlay of the stream not being okay, or that kind of thing, because I, as a caster, have no power over it. Like that kind of thing, you know. It's like someone tweets you about, like, why is the draft so bad? You don't know. You're like the social media mania. What? Don't ask. I know. Like, people really need to differentiate those different things, you know. Like, I can be held accountable for the things that I've done, but I can't be held accountable for everything that's going on in the entire thing. So that's something to take into account for the people at home. Again, it's not my fault if something, I don't know, just have common sense. Just basically use your common sense, please.
Exactly. So audience, be nice. Be nice. Always try to be nice.
Yes. And also, it's kind of on the same line, but if someone might look at all these comments, you know, and they might think, is it worth it to get into this job? Is it worth it to become a CM or like in touch with the community in this way? Will you tell them they need some kind of preparation? Do you think they need to come from a specific background to be ready for that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think there's two parts to everything. Like, one part is qualifications and experience. It's super valuable. Like, maybe in the esports industry, I could probably admit that people value experience more over certain qualifications for certain areas, I think. But the biggest thing that people always undervalue is networking, like having conversations, speaking to people. I mean, like, I've said the same things like over 20 million calls over the past 2 weeks with people, but how I kind of explain networking to them is like, okay, regardless what you get from it or what you want the outcome from it to be. So I can go back to when I obviously ran Radiant and the team is like, sometimes I want sponsorships from certain companies. I'd go in with that mindset and want that. If I didn't get that, I'd be disappointed. But you find that just letting them know that you exist and them knowing of you now and them having that conversation, you can reach out to them at any single time, is still really, really valuable. So regardless who you're networking with and whatever the networking looks like, it's still really useful to have these conversations. I find that my biggest recommendation to when networking is that jump to the point. Don't be the person that, look, I get them all the time where people message me going, hey, can I ask a question? It's like, you could have just asked a question. You know what I mean? And instead I'm having to respond with, yeah, sure, go for it. And look, I maybe respond on somewhat of a regular basis. I'm not awful in my Twitter DMs, but other people may. Look, some people are way more busy than me. And if you message them and they respond a week later, and they go, yeah, sure, ask me the question, and then you respond, and then they respond a week later again. I mean, you're just stretching out the time for no reason. Like, jump straight into it. It's not rude. I guess people are trying to be polite, and it's not rude jumping to the point. If anything, they'll appreciate it. But you go, okay, hey, my name's XYZ, this is what I'm doing. Could I grab 15 minutes of your time and hop on a call? Like, could I pick your brain for 15 minutes and just ask you some questions? And then on the call, like, ask some questions, kind of pick their brain and understand maybe the process a little bit more. And maybe jump in and go, you're offering any internships? Obviously relevant to certain areas, not relevant to all people. Can I shadow you for an evening? Can I understand what you do? Like, can you mentor me? Like, all these things you can ask, and they're available. And we live in the world of social media, and that people are not using their platforms enough. If anything, they're using it just to spew opinions into thin air and argue with people and use it in a really negative light, which is really not benefiting anybody, if anything. So make sure you utilize it to your best of ability. Actually, can use a good example of, I just spoke to recently a professional player that wants to now be a social media manager, and he was like, where do I start, mate? And I was like, well, one, you're a professional player, so you have a large following. Network. You have it far easier than most people, because one, people are much more likely to incline to respond to you because you're something or built something of yourself, right? And you already have a huge network to kind of reach out to. So reach out to the brands that you've already played for and reach out and see if you could start part-time social media for them, right? There's always someone you can network with, and whether that's Twitter or LinkedIn, a good Twitter trick is to type in, let's say you want to find, okay, graphic designers at Riot Games. What you do on Twitter is you type in graphic and then at Riot Games, and then if you click search, it comes up with loads of different options. If you click the people section, you see every single person on Twitter with the word graphic and the word and at Riot Games in their bio. Reach out to those people. Let's say you wanted to do marketing. Again, same tactic. You type in marketing at Riot Games and you reach out to these people. LinkedIn's obviously a platform you can do this too. I find that endemic people to the space don't use LinkedIn as much as they use Twitter. So Twitter's maybe easy to reach out. Message them, make sure it's detailed, purposeful, not just a hey. And then if they don't respond, which is absolutely fine, also could go to requested DMs, leave it a week, and then maybe tweet them and go, look, I've dropped you a message. Do you mind checking it? If they don't respond to that, that's fine. You leave it and you move on. That's okay. You're going to get people that are not going to respond. You're going to get people that ignore you. That's okay. That's going to happen. That's the biggest thing, I think, to anyone. That's generic advice. Community management, game programming, I mean, anything is network. Like, it's really, really valuable. We come back to that quote, right? That's all the time. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And I mean, it is really, really relevant in this space, unfortunately. Regardless, at certain levels, it's more relevant than others. But yeah, speaking to people, making sure they know you exist, having them conversations will always benefit you.
I think it's quite interesting how you explain it, because of course at the end is how the network works. So, but it's true that I love that you make that example about being polite and so on, because I think especially for foreigners, when we don't know, we are not talk English as often, and we learn the language, we wanted to be so polite because we see you from England like so polite, and we have this idea of you. And I remember that once I have a friend of mine who was living there, it was telling me, Yasmina, go straight to the heart, because at the end, they are like us at the end. And it was like, oh, really? But because I don't want to be unpolite in any way.
Yes.
But I will go straight to the hand and to the next question. And actually, as you say, you have a profession in this area of community and branding. And I would like to know the key points that you will see, you will tell to someone who wanted to create a good brand, a good marketing strategy, from a team, or maybe from the perspective of their TO. If you can, in a nutshell, tell me a little bit, or you can extend it, because I think it's quite enriching at the end.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me that comes to mind, can I swear on this too? Or not, am I not allowed to swear?
I mean, do it.
Okay.
You have our permission.
Okay. Authenticity is the most important thing. Don't bullshit your audience, basically. That is the number one most important thing. I can't stress it enough. When weighing up my options for companies, some of them wouldn't represent my morals, wouldn't represent like an authentic brand, and therefore I couldn't work for them. Authenticity is number one, the most important thing for me anyways, and it's something whenever I work with clients or whatever brand I work with, I need to always ensure that's number one in their bucks, among other things, because look, the esports audience is brutal. I mean, most audiences on social media are brutal. They will pick you apart if you're not authentic. They will We see it all the time when brands do partnerships or sponsorships or whatever it is that's not authentic and it's really forced. I mean, we've seen all this NFT stuff, right? And regardless of your opinion on NFTs, they're not approaching them in an authentic way. Regardless, like if they're good, bad, I don't even know. I don't know enough about them, right? But 100 Thieves have just approached it in the spot on example, done it authentically, entered the right space, and it's got a positive reaction. Every other esports org before that did it in a negative light, not authentic, just forced it upon their audience without any education or without any kind of benefit to them, and just threw in kind of like it looked as a money grab, if anything, right? And yeah, I mean, you saw the negative sentiment around it. It's not positive at all. So authenticity is the most important thing for any brand in this space to really last. We see companies all the time that come in, try to grab a quick buck from esports. They get absolutely just tortured on social media, and then they run away and never come back, and they say to everybody and all their friends, "Our esports is a horrible market, you shouldn't go in it." Well, I mean, yeah, if you approach it like that way, it sure is, because the esports audience is absolutely going to pick apart everything that you do, and if it's not authentic. That's the number one thing for me, is authenticity. Be real, don't bullshit. Be real with your audience, regardless if you've done things bad. It's okay to mess up. People do. We're not perfect. If anyone tells me they're perfect, I don't trust them. If anything, look, I want you to, if like somebody does something bad, a company does something bad, it's okay to own it. It's okay to own it and actually explain to your audience what you're doing to progressively move forward and actually improve this area. That's the most important for me. Don't be a brand that it comes out and it leaks that you've done something bad with a certain player and you never discuss it and you never talk about it and you never approach it, just because you're scared of what the repercussions would be. If anything, the repercussions are much worse that you're not speaking about it than if you actually were to approach it in an authentic way. Yeah, that's the most important thing to me, personally anyways.
So keep an eye on that. Be authentic.
And talking about authenticity and following your moral code and like repercussions, indeed, recently Hitmarker decided to approach this thing in a different way, as in like removing unpaid offers, and I found it really interesting and really useful as well. I want to know, what was it like, what received by the community, but also by the people who post the offers in there, because I can imagine some of them were like, okay, what's going on here? Can you explain us why you took that step, and also how the people react to it?
Yeah, so it was a bit before my time, but I think I'm still quite good to speak on it. I think so. Why we removed it was because like 99% of the volunteer and unpaid internships and all those unpaid roles were just shit. Be real, they're worthless. Absolutely worthless. Look, if you're going to do an unpaid role, it has to offer some real benefit to the person. It has to be really beneficial. And unfortunately, look, if we're getting, and as you can imagine, we have to back check. We don't have to, but we do anyways. We kind of back check all companies that apply and put on job listings on our website, regardless, like every single job we do. Imagine if we had to do that. Imagine that, like, we get tons of job applications and job submissions every single day. Volunteer and unpaid roles are way more popular than anything else, if anything, because people want unpaid labor at the end of the day. So imagine that, but times 10. We're having to sift through honestly just shit, like just absolutely shit postings that are just really worthless and not gonna benefit the audience at all. And it feels really scummy too, that if you come to our platform and go, I want to have a career in esports, and then you see volunteer, unpaid, internship, volunteer, and it's like, well, is that all esports and gaming is? Just volunteer and internships? It's pointless. It's not fun at all to look at. So yeah, there's many other reasons too, like legally. I mean, what can you do around volunteer? Like, we're finding just bedroom orgs and really tiny brands that really can't offer any value, just look for cheap labor. Well, unpaid labor, if anything, because they don't want to pay people. And how Rich put it, the MD, was, look, if you start a brand and you can't pay people, you shouldn't have started the brand. As simple as that. To put it very, very simply. Look, that isn't saying you shouldn't use volunteers. Look, reach out to the people in your network. You just shouldn't be posting it on a job listing board and like posting it for anybody to kind of approach, because it doesn't offer any benefit. Look, if you want to work with your friends on a project, you go do that. But you don't need someone from another country that is underage and just looking for something, just kind of looking for an entry and take advantage of it. That's not cool. And yeah, that doesn't sit well with any of us at Hitmarker. So that was many of the reasons. Look, we get the question every single day, to be honest, like, would we bring them back, or why have they been removed and whatever, and we're very clear on our stance. We I think entirely agree there's room for that 0.1%, but how do we get that process right? How do we get that process right of having to sift through thousands a day to find that 0.1%. Is it worth it? I'd say not so. So it's a tough one, because look, I have done volunteer roles in the past. Hitmarker absolutely did volunteer roles in the past too, like for themselves as a company. Like, we've all benefited off it in some way, but we think right now the space is mature enough to offer people paid work. There's no need for you to be like taking advantage of unpaid labor at this point. No need at all. And if you can't pay people, your business model's pretty shit. You know, it's pretty bad.
I actually believe it, because I like how you said like the sector right now is mature enough, because I think it is in somehow, because of course we have a lot of conversations in relation, like they say, no, the esports sector is someone who still has not developed as other industry, but at the end we have plenty of years here, and now we're taking the things serious. So I'm really happy that you feel that way, and Hitmarker do it as well. But I have to ask if you know if there are other things they're planning to do in relation with this or with jobs, anything that you can reveal here in exclusive in Esports Business Live.
Yeah.
If you can, don't worry. I understand non-disclosure agreements. I just understand this.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I get in trouble. I think I can. Like, this is something I've been working on for a while, but like, I mean, it's something that I don't know when it's going to be announced, or if it will be. It should come this year. But we want a review system for brands, so we want people to be able to submit reviews, so people can actually come and, like, we want people to be critical thinkers. This all comes back to the point I mentioned earlier of, okay, if I want to work for Activision Blizzard after what they've recently done, I get to look into, okay, let's say their reviews is 2 stars out of 5. I probably don't want to be applying there. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, we kind of like want a review system, and then 2, which is important and close to my heart, is kind of like a salary check. So we want kind of, look, if you're a graphic designer in North America, this is what the average salary should be, and kind of like more encouraging companies also to share this information, and then also reaching out to other graphic designers in North America at the same kind of senior level, right? To give us kind of an idea of their own kind of earnings, so we can kind of relate to it. Because look, in esports, regardless if you're getting paid to, people still take advantage of you. Companies want to pay you the least at the end of the day. Of course they do.
Yes.
It saves them money. So I've had productive conversations as a social media manager with other people going, okay, I'm on this amount, how much are you on? And they respond with either a much higher number or a much lower number. And I'm like, well, 1, you're getting screwed over, or 2, I'm getting screwed over. And it's good to have these healthy conversations and understand where people are on. Obviously, it depends on location too. Look, someone living in London is going to get paid probably more than someone that's going to get paid, I don't know, in maybe a cheaper European city, right? Because London's super expensive. But there needs to be some kind of way to check this. So look, we're trying to just become an all-encompassing channel that is available to go, look, okay, critical thinkers make the decisions, but also understand better pay and understand, okay, is this company ethos that I want to be working for, all that good stuff, basically.
I like that you're doing a forum, because like, I think it's a pretty good idea. And for example, for us in the legal sector, it's quite hard. You always try to see if you can find out a little bit how it's inside, because of course they promise you things, and at the end it's not like this. So I hope them to see this improvement really soon, because I think it could be really, really helpful, as well as the salary. I didn't expect that. It was quite nice. So thank you, Nathan, for doing exclusive here.
It's kind of like building this community. I don't know what's the name exactly, but these associations of workers. Because if you know what others are earning, once again, as you said, you can kind of measure if what you're getting paid is fair enough or not. And if it's not, and more people are sharing that experience, and they're being like, okay, this X company is being like this, and they're underpaying people, I guess that can also create a movement within the scene. So I think, once again, that's quite interesting. I'm looking forward to it. Not because I'm gonna make any bad comments at all.
No, of course. Like,
You
look,
promise that?
yeah.
No,
Like,
I'm not promising anything.
Look, our entire ethos is we don't care about the companies, we care about the people at the end of the day. We don't give a single insert swear word there about the companies. Like, we care about the individuals that are going to be working for these brands, and we care about making sure they get the best opportunities right. And not everybody goes out and does the research themselves. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I'm saying as long as we can streamline certain processes and making it easier for them to make their own decisions and still not be law and order, I don't think we should be going, okay, this company's bad, so we're going to remove them entirely. Like, we still look. I think you find with any company, just because the CEO is a bad person doesn't mean the other 1,000 people are working for him, right, are bad. That's a fact. So I think there's certain areas that we can streamline and improve and just make it easy for everybody to kind of like make a decision on if they want to decide, right? And if they don't do the research, whose fault is that? It's only them to blame.
True. And also, I'm thinking about all these trends going around now, and there's this authenticity thing. Well, again, we were talking about it, like the brands, seeing all the brands that do not quite match on all lineup. And I wanted to know, how do you keep up with the trends in the community? Because I'm guessing also even from your position, you might be able to see what trends are taking place right now, what new positions are arising from these companies are constantly evolving. So what trends have you noticed that are upcoming and taking some sort of importance in the sector this year and since you joined Hitmarker?
Oh yeah, it's a difficult one. I think like how I follow trends is like two things. Like one, spend a lot of time on Twitter. Like you just scrolling Twitter timeline, we'll see tons of things that are popping up, right? Speaking to people too behind the scenes and kind of understanding like what they have planned and what they have, upcoming to announce is also quite interesting. I think current trends is really difficult because there's social media too, there's a new trend every week to follow and jump on board with and kind of, so it'd be a tough one. I think if anything, people just want, or what I've understood at Hitmarker maybe, is people want more kind of transparency around like what we do and everything that we provide, and cover each individual area of the gaming world, because right now we're still kind of attached to that like esports market and just that, and we want to be way more wider to gaming. So it's a tough one. I don't think there's like any trends right now that we're hopping on board with. I think like there is a resource that we're working on at the moment, like an 8-page booklet that's kind of like an educational series and like really built for like schools, colleges and universities that someone can look at. I think the biggest issue that we found and where this was maybe born from is that one, adults or parents are really doubting that you can get a career in gaming and you can follow that pathway. And I get it, I understand it. I had the same issue with my parents, but it's kind of our job to provide a resource that is able to really prove that you can go down a viable route in this industry. So yeah, that's what we're building at the moment. That's kind of like my little baby at the moment that in 3 weeks should be published and hopefully in tons of universities, colleges and schools all around the world, so people can have that resource at hand, because that's something that I lacked when I was growing up too. I mean, when I was 16, there was only like, okay, you go to university or you don't go anywhere else. And I was like, well, I don't want to go to university. I don't want to spend so much money a year and not do something I enjoy. I don't want to do that. Because my brother did it and like he had to do it because he wanted to be a doctor. And like I think your parents also look at you and go, okay, he went to university, so you must go to university too. And like, no, there's millions of different approaches to be taken. We just need to normalize and also get the parents on board, but also teach the children that, look, this is an option. You can do this, and this is an absolute viable route. And maybe we're the kind of the area to start this. You can look at our site. You can look at like all the different advice kind of articles on our site too. So yeah, that's the next step. I didn't really answer the question, but like that's the next thing we're trying to like satisfy our audience is like that educational piece, I think.
I want to just do like an stop here just to ask you, because your brother, you said, was studying or is studying to be a doctor. And I want to know if you can answer, of course, how did your parents take it when you decided, hey, my brother is being a doctor, I want to work in this entirely or most of the new field, which I don't know, how did they take it? What were the questions about it?
Yeah, my dad's super chill and just doesn't really care. He's really chilled. My mom is just my mom like mothers are. They're always worried. They want the best for their children, of course, and I absolutely get it. Moms are always right too. Somehow they're always right, regardless what happens. They're always right. So my mom was a little bit nervous. She wanted me to just have some kind of qualification behind my back, but I was trying to convince her, look, this is my passion. I can prove to you what I can do. But actually, we spoke about it when I just joined Hitmarker. When I signed my contract, I sat down with my mom and dad, and they were like, look, you've proved us wrong every single step of the way in the past 3 years. So you know what's right, and you know what the right decision is for you. So we entrust in that, and that was really nice to hear, because for my entire early life, I was trying to convince them that, look, this is a good pathway. I'm earning money. You can see I'm earning money. It's not like fake money. It's not any, like, it's true money coming in, and it's legitimate, and it's getting taxed. It's real. And I think my mom just really got sold to it over the idea and just said, look, I think for my first, that is quite funny. My first esports job at Esports Insider, she had, or she reached out to Sam, the managing director, and just to be, it was so embarrassing. But she had to have a conversation with Sam to make sure it wasn't a scam and wasn't. And I was like, dude, whatever. But Sam was really, look, I was 18, I was whatever. It was obviously embarrassing, but like, she had to be involved to some degree because she was worried. She thought I was just getting scammed, right? And I get it. I get the concerns, but it was funny. But now, yeah, they fully entrust that and understand what I do and just let me fly with it. And yeah, my brother, if anything, is not jealous, but like is maybe frustrated because he's just completed now and he's finally a qualified doctor officially. But yeah, for a while and still now and still for a while until he gets paid like properly, I will always be paid more than him, even though there's like an 8-year gap that I like to annoy him about. So yeah, like we went down totally different routes. Doctor to a esports community and head of marketing is wildly different. So yeah, but it's a fun story to tell.
And actually, we have a comment related with that. Like Angry was saying, not only an option, but if you're successful, you can earn more than those university people. And as you prove, you earn right now more than you, bro.
No, he won't like me saying that. But yeah, look, I find that I don't love the educational system here in the UK. I don't think it's brilliant, but I also don't want to dissuade anybody that's doing a degree right now and say it's not worth it at all, because it is. Like, look, there are still some worth in degrees. Absolutely, of course there is. But I would say do things alongside the degree that maybe your university isn't telling you to do, that you should be doing outside, I guess extracurriculum or whatever they call it in education. So make sure you're at the best possible position yourself when leaving, that you can line yourself up for a position. But yeah, don't be sold also that a degree is the only thing that you need to get a job, because it's not. I find that tons of people are finishing university and are really struggling on where to go, because I mean, that's all they've got. And yes, university is also not very practical too. I find that I hear lots of stories, and this is different. Look, you can't be a doctor and not go to university. Let's be clear. There has to be certain things you have to get a degree for, and that's a fact, right? I wouldn't want anyone, doing surgery if they hadn't got a doctor's degree or anything like that.
I don't trust that.
Yeah, absolutely, right. But like, don't be sold the idea that you have to have a degree to do certain things, because you don't. And then don't be sold the fact that if you do have a degree, that it will take you for the rest of your life, because it also won't. You need to do extra things on top of this. But let's say there's 3 candidates, and this is maybe the example that I used for a kind of an open esports position. And this, I'm talking just as a recruiter here, and not everyone will agree with me, of course, but let's say there's 3 candidates, one with a degree and 2 years of esports experience, second with just 2 years esports experience, and then the third, just a degree. So the first person going to be picked is the person with a degree plus experience. The second person on the list is going to be the person with the experience. The third person and last person is going to be the person with just the degree. So make sure you're always doing other things outside of your degree or your qualification, whatever it is, to progress yourself further.
So I hope everyone take this advice, because at the end, I feel it's the same here in Spain. Actually, we have we always forced to go to degrees, to universities, because it's like the only option. So it's really nice that you're trying to educate and show all the option, all the path. Of course, as you say, if you want to do a degree or something, of course do it. But at the same time, try to not only focus on one thing, try to do differences as you did, because at the end you did your own team. Come on, you did your own team.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I think so. At the end, it's quite positive, all the things, and of course, I did the university path. I studied law, but then I discovered that there are all the options. Of course, all the esports sector needs a lawyer sometimes, so.
Absolutely,
I think, why no? I can be here.
But now, every industry needs lawyers. Yeah, there's certain sectors that every industry will need, and people just think because it's game and esports, we don't need people that do finance or IT or law. Like, no, we're still an industry, and we still need all these things. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, at the end, there is important. And I would like to ask you just a personal question in somehow, like, for you, how you see the industry evolving. If you see the sector in your personal, if you see continue growing, if you feel like we are already there, how is your personal opinion about the sector?
Yeah, I think we've got, like, we're nowhere near what we could be. I think like there's a lot of personal gripes that I have with the industry that frustrate me, maybe, that I think could be really improved. I think like one is just companies exploiting people is one of the biggest gripes. I think another is how women are treated in the space is not too great, and how we can kind of improve education in that area. There's just a lot of scummy practices and a lot of scummy people getting away with certain things. And if anything, me being good friends with, I kind of mentioned it before we started, but the person who's just joined Hitmarker, Adam Fitch, like me being good friends with Adam, who's a journalist, it's important for us now as Hitmarker. Again, we can't become the law and order of the industry. That's not how we want to position ourselves. But know that any scummy business that happens, any people that are hiding behind scummy things or taking advantage of certain people or doing bad things will be brought out. Simple as that. And we will make sure we dig out all them holes and make sure these people do not serve justice, but it is brought to the light of what they're doing, because it's not okay. And people, so many people get away with it every single day, and it's really frustrating, to be honest, to know that I speak to people all the time and they tell me terrible experiences of people, how they've been treated or what's happened, and it's not fun hearing these stories. And I don't see it as our duty to stand for these people and maybe like call out every single person, but where we can, we absolutely will. And look, if every company by the end of 2022 hates us, cool. I think we've done a good job, because every company is doing something, or not every company, of course, but some companies are doing some really naughty things behind the scene, and they're getting away with it. And they're doing some really scummy practices. They're taking advantage of certain people, and they're getting away with it. And as long as we still exist, and as long as we stand for and stick to our morals and actually care about the people at the end of the day, and care for what matters, then we will continue to stand for the people that actually matter, and make these, not only make the decisions for them, but call out the people that are doing the scummy shit. Simple as that. So I think, look, the space is progressing. It's in a very weird stage at the moment with, I think, NFTs. As weird as it is, and as weird as I just don't understand it to anywhere near, I think it has some benefit to offer to the industry, some benefit. But what that looks like is not the digital art that we're all seeing on our timelines. I think it maybe has some metaverse kind of attachment to it, and kind of living in an online world, I think we've seen from COVID. But I don't understand it, don't invest in it, don't get it at all, like really don't get anywhere near like all the hype about it. But I feel like it has some kind of benefit to play. And then, yeah, like how we're moving in, I think the industry, next big step too is like how we make better revenue, and better revenue streams right now. And teams are looking into that, kind of like Liquid Plus and like Team NFT. I understand people hate it, and I get why, right? Because all the companies are just not approaching it in an authentic way. They're just doing it for a money grab. So I think the next step is also people, organizations at least, kind of creating good revenue streams. And we've seen that with Liquid Plus, like these community built things where you have to pay to enter or earn points or whatever it is a different approach. Because right now, as much as I love esports fans, they're also very spoiled. They also get a lot of things for free. We have to be honest. Every piece of content that they get is for absolutely free, right? There's no pay to entry wall. There's no barriers. Like if you look at any other industry, there is something like that, and in esports there isn't. So I think the next stage for the industry, just to mature and actually make sure that we're set up in a good place and we're actually making money at the end of the day, because a lot of esports orgs aren't, and that's terrifying for the longevity of the industry, is that like how do we better monetize the space? And that's not my job from like from a Hitmarker perspective. We're cool and we're good from that side, but an esports org position will be interesting to see how they approach it, because they have to do it in the right way too. They have to do it in an authentic way, in a good way, that's actually beneficial, not just a money grab and it's simple like that, right?
Well, Nathan, I mean, as someone who's willing to pay like 70 euros for a shirt, I really think a random video of a player mistaking the capital of France for the capital of... I'm just kidding. It's okay. I understand. I know where you're coming from, and I will definitely would like to see more like better quality content, if that meant I have to pay a little bit to my favorite organization. Because honestly, when a while ago clubs were being launched, as in become part of the fan club for X organization, and you get your card and your little thingies and your bag of goodies, and I was like into that. I wanted to get that experience. Unfortunately, I couldn't get into it because it was Origen, and Origen obviously ended up, well, not existing anymore. But I would have loved to be part of fan club, like exclusive fan club. So hopefully we'll catch up to that soon. But also, since there are only about 2 minutes left of broadcast, I would like to ask you to send a message to everyone who's watching or to anyone you want to, because I mean, we do this. This is your time to shine. So Nathan, go ahead.
Oh, I think I say to everyone, I think I say the same thing. Is just be nice. It sounds like a really easy thing to say, right? But be nice to people. In a world of this crazy industry that's moving so fast, and the world of social media, like, don't feel like you owe anybody anything. The world isn't watching you and expecting you to do crazy things. You can take it at your own pace. Also at the same time, be nice to people. Don't be a dickhead is the quote that the All Blacks live by. But it's like, be nice to people and spread that positivity. I think it comes around to sounds like super cliche, right? But I think it's important. It makes you feel good. It makes the other person feel good, and there's no negative to it at the end of the day. So be nice to people.
Hey,
That's a good.
As my dog's waiting to go out. She's done with the podcast now.
She's like saying, "Hey, can you finish and give me attention?"
Can you take me for a walk, please? Yeah, so she's thinking.
He's saying that to you, but of course we cannot hold you here much longer because I think we actually fulfill the hour. I wanted to thank also Angry because he was saying some interesting points about NFTs, how he was feeling about it, and of course saying that of course it doesn't feel like it's not used, but not the gaming sector. So thank you. And if you have a quick question, do it now, because if not, we have to say goodbye to our guest because we cannot hold it anymore. Because it has a life in it.
That we good.
Last opportunity. If not, thank you so much, Nathan, for coming.
Yeah,
And of course, the way you ended, it was quite nice. I hope the people who watch it, maybe because we were having some problems with Twitch, so we have to say sorry about that, because of course we have a lot of our main audience are from there, but it's okay. I hope they watch it later or something, and maybe they, of course, if you have any question or something, contact him because it's quite nice. You can do it in LinkedIn, in Twitter. He's quite a good person, and you can ask as you probably say, just make a question and no question. Thank you. See, I'm a nice people. Thank you so much for being nice.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's been really interesting.
Okay, so for now, we're going to be sending you to the backstage, but we'll be back with you in a second once the broadcast is finished. So please stay there for 2 seconds while we say goodbye. Goodbye, Nathan.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye.
So it has been really interesting to have him here. It was quite.
Right.
I really like it, how the role they're playing in Hitmarker, and I hope to see more things from the future and for Nathan as well. So I hope to see you the next week. Guys, if you like our content, please thumb up. Sorry about the Twitch because I was really sad to see the problem, but hopefully for tomorrow it was not going to be like that. And please remember that we have all our colleagues that are workers, corporate marketing, and top tier. There is a news section here.
Yay!
So please watch them and jump up. And if you like our content, you support our channel and you can support us.
Okay, and with that being said, Yasmina, it's time to say goodbye. So thank you to everyone who's been watching and to the future viewers who might watch it later. So thank you very much and goodbye till next week. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye, guys.